we go again?
Oh, no, not again.
You've seen it before, haven't you?
Dom, how long have we been doing this?
Once more unto the bridge. Dear friends.
Again and again and again until we're both dead.
Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews with connections in mind. The Lego Movie Part 2 is the sequel to the 2014 film The Lego Movie, and it once again stars the voice talents of Chris Pratt as Emmett and Elizabeth Banks as Lucy/Wildstyle. And in this film we see the aftermath of the introduction of Lego sets belonging to the man upstairs' sister. And it's these Lego worlds are locked into a state of war, essentially. And these enemy Lego nation, I guess, has kidnapped Wildstyle as well as other Lego characters from the ruins of Bricksburg, and it's up to Emmett in order to save them from their unknown fate in the system of Sistar. Now, this video review will contain spoilers of Lego Movie 2, as well as certain other films and TV series. I will put a full list in the description below, but before all that gets down, I want to do my spoiler-free review and thoughts before I get into my spoiler-filled analysis. So, the real question is, should you go see the Lego Movie 2 in theaters, or wait until it comes out on DVD, Blu-ray, streaming, or just not bother with it at all? Any of those options. I would say this is definitely worth checking out. This is definitely a solid sequel to the Lego Movie, even though we've already technically had two other theatrical Lego movies before this, namely the Lego Batman movie and the Lego Ninjago movie. However, since this is a continuation right off the end of the first Lego movie, I would say this is definitely a solid continuation of that story, worthy of that subtitle, the second part. It does really feel like it is picked up where it left off. I feel like since this movie isn't directed by Lord and Miller, it's just using a story written by them. I feel like the tone is definitely there for this film, for sure, and there's a lot of great meta references in all this, as there was in the original Lego Movie, and that's all great, that's all funny, but it feels like it seems like this sequel is suffering from the same sort of things that a lot of sequels suffer from, namely the fact that it does feel like it is kind of going through the motions at times, where it's just doing things that you expected things to happen in certain instances. And because of that, I feel like it's lacked a certain amount of spontaneity that the original had. And while this movie still has a lot of laughs in it, it still has a lot of twists and turns with it. I feel like it has lots of that spontaneity, as I said, and also because we know how this world works now because of that first movie. In that first movie, we weren't quite sure how the world worked, and until the last few minutes of the film. And in this one, because we know how the world works, not only does that take some of the mystery out of it, but it also tends to stretch plausibility a little bit, because everything that happened in that first Lego movie, we could kind of see happening in the imagination of the kid who was going down into his father's basement and playing with all these Legos, and he has an explanation for all of these things. However, now in this one, things happen in this film that you don't quite know the mechanics of it, and you're trying to figure out exactly how you're trying to get through it. And especially in the original Lego movie, there was a good blend of CGI of Lego and some live action components that made it seem like on repeat viewing, you can kind of see the wink motion moments in that first film of how this is all just in the imagination of this kid. and he's just kind of using like string and stuff to move his things around, and could be how that works. In this film, however, it doesn't seem to. It still has those sorts of moments in it, but I don't feel like it necessarily communicated that as well. And again, certain mechanics of things did not really get explained in this film, I felt. So that kind of detracted a little bit from it. Also, my main complaint is that because, like I said, in that original film, we could kind of see the message that would go on, and it was very heartwarming in the how it concluded. However, in this film, we see what the message is going to be a mile away at this point. I know this is a kids movie, and kids might not pick up on that right away, but for me, that's how I felt, and that it was just getting to the point where it's like, okay, I can see where it's eventually going to come to a head. And even though I knew what was coming, I still liked that it was a very heartwarming way how it wrapped up, and it is definitely something that kids with siblings could understand in that point, as far as miscommunication and just wanting to be together and those sorts of things, wanting to be able to play together, that sort of thing. These are the things that kids can communicate with, and I feel just like in the first film, that heartwarming message between son and father, and just wanting to be a kid at that point and play with these toys and have an imagination. I love that. I love how both of these films still have great heartwarming things. Also, I mean, finally, I feel like I'm ragging on this more than I should. It is a great movie. You should definitely go see this movie. It is very fun. It is very action. The CGI is fantastic. The story moves on at a pretty good clip. I don't feel like for the most part, I would say there aren't really any wasted moments. And for when I say the most part, I would say the original Lego Movie did have Everything is Awesome as a song title, and it had a little musical number as part of it, and it kind of cropped up throughout the rest of the film as a song, and that was fine. This film has a number of musical moments and music moments and different songs, and I was not a fan of that. I'm sorry. It just was very annoying to me, and I felt like that was detracting from the music, and it did kind of slow down a bit when the musical numbers hit, especially between especially the second musical number between Batman and Mrs. Queen Whatever I Want to Be. I think that was what they called her, and that musical number was fine, but I felt like that was a little one too many in my opinion, and that just didn't really work for me. And the end song, which was basically this song's gonna get stuck in your head, I had to work hard to have it not stuck in my head, but to me it's kind of a 50-50 nugget with that sort of thing. On the one hand, it is very manipulative, and it's not as catchy as Everything is Awesome at that point, but on the other hand, I feel like that's kind of the point that they were trying to make with that how it is manipulative, and that's what they're trying to do. It's kind of a double layer sort of thing, so I'm not entirely certain how I'm supposed to take that, but overall, I would say my main thoughts are this movie has great CGI, the characters are very fun, everyone has something to do in this, and they have their own little bits to it, even though some I feel like are more cameo than others, especially Will Ferrell. If you have not seen the original Lego Movie, you know he actually, then I won't spoil anything, but he does show up actually in person in the original Lego Movie, but in this one, I feel like he literally phoned in his lines because he barely has anything to do, and that's sort of a shame. But the characters do great things, and the CGI is amazing. The storyline goes great. All the negatives that I said, they keep it from being a great movie, but I feel like as a sequel to the original Lego Movie, it is definitely very solid. So those are my main thoughts, spoiler free, on the Lego Movie 2, the second part. Now, at this point, I would like to warn you that I'm going to be diving into my spoiler-filled analysis of this film. This is where I show you where, just comparing different story arcs and character parallels to things that have come before that. So, with all that said, without further ado, let's get into some spoiler-filled analysis on the Lego Movie 2, the second part. So, this film has the main thrust of this film is that the main conflict between these characters is that the regular Lego sets and then the Duplo/girly type Lego sets are at war, but they're only at war because the Sistar system Lego characters only wanted to have peace with the main Lego, the boy Legos, I should say. Well, boy, girl, whatever. They're all Legos, right? And they just wanted to play together, and their actions were misconstrued as as a hostile act. And in a way, so I love that part of that film, and the fact but the reason this conflict comes through is because these characters are being manipulated by someone that they don't know who it is, mainly the character of Rex, who helps out Emmett to go through with this warpath, but it turns out that Rex is not who he says he is, or he's not the whole truth, and he's trying to goad Emmett into attacking these people, and all these Sistar system Legos want to be is friendly. And this reminded me a lot of an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation entitled Conundrum, in which the crew of the Enterprise have their minds wiped, and they have no memory of who they are, and they have an extra crewman on board from when they started who loads fake information into the Enterprise computer to say that they're at war with another species, but it turns out that this character, Commander Duncan, I believe his name was, is in fact an enemy alien, and it was manipulating the crew in order to continue the violence, and this other species just wants to be friendly towards the Federation at that point. So that would be the character of Rex, but furthermore, the character of Rex, as stated in the movie, is revealed to be a future version of Emmett, which, like I said, who knows how that mechanically works in the real universe as compared to the Lego Imagination universe. Who knows how that worked out, but it turns out Rex is the actual bad guy in this, and he is manipulating this conflict in order to toughen up his younger self and make him hardened and turn into himself and continue this violence at that point. The people from the future visiting their younger selves or versions of their younger selves is nothing new. In fact, there's another episode of Stargate: The Next Generation entitled Firstborn, in which this almost the exact same plot arc happens, in which the older version of Alexander Rozhenko comes back in time to toughen him up because in the future he was a weakling in his eyes, and he wants to come back in time in order to save his older self from suffering that fate. And that's a very close parallel. Another parallel I could see would be an episode of Doctor Who entitled "The Girl Who Waited," in which Amy Pond is separated from the Doctor and Rory in a health clinic that has time dilation going on, where different parts of the hospital are in different timelines. So young Amy, in fact, finds herself meeting an older version of herself who is a lot hardened after spending 30 years in this medical facility surviving. And the older Amy is trying to harden up the younger Amy, and the younger Amy is trying to soften the heart of the older Amy, and that all is very similar to what happens in the final moments of the Lego Movie 2, in which the young Emmett is trying to soften the heart of the older Emmett, which eventually does happen. And just in both of these instances, once the past has changed, the future self disappears from existence because they never the timeline has been altered at that point. And finally, just another instance of a future version of themselves, of a character going back in time and saving another version of himself or relative of himself. That just made me think of Stargate Continuum, in which Lieutenant Colonel Cameron Mitchell goes back to the 20s and has to live for 10 years, and he saves his grandfather from a gold plot that would have left him dead. And the final shot of that is just the two of them, essentially the same character but different in that regard. So a little weaker parallel, but an interesting one nonetheless. And finally, another parallel that I found is the character of Lucy / Wildstyle. It is noted that during the spa treatment that her hair, the black marker, that the black streaks of her hair wash away to reveal that her hairpiece is actually, instead of black and pink, is blue and pink. And that is revealed later that she had a soft side that she wanted to bury under a tough exterior and become more brooding at that point. And that just reminded me a lot of the Emoji Movie, actually, with the character of Jailbreak, who was actually a princess emoji who wanted to hide under her identity under a gritty exterior image, and she wanted to hide the soft side of her. So a tenuous connection, but an interesting character parallel nonetheless. So those are my thoughts on the Lego Movie 2 and my spoiler-filled analysis. What did you think of it? Do you agree with my analysis? Do you not agree with my analysis? Did you like the movie? Did you not like the movie? Did I miss anything in my analysis as well? Let me all know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. Be sure to check out my reaction series for each. I'm doing reaction videos for each and every episode of Season 2 of The Orville and Season 2 of Star Trek Discovery. And also, if you're interested, be sure to look for my next vid movie review, which will be for How to Train Your Dragon 3: The Hidden World, which is coming out February 22nd. So be sure to look for that. Thank you so much for watching. And just remember, there is nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have seen it before.